bothering me since I focus mostly on international affairs. I want to know what you or maybe your contacts or your coworkers in Congress think about the new alliance between the Chinese and the Russian, which for the longest time I thought would never happen considering their past hostilities.
Well, these two countries, I think, each form a unique threat, and then if as they work together, I think we have to take it quite seriously. I was with Secretary Mattis, Defense Secretary Mattis, about 6 weeks ago. Had an interesting discussion with him about the two countries individually, and the contest with Russia is really more a contest of power. They are currently exercising power in areas like eastern Ukraine, what they did in Crimea, what they are doing in Syria today, and we have a contest of just raw power. I think that's why the strikes last week were important, because we need to show Russia and Iran in this current existing power structure that power struggle that we're not going to turn away. The issue with China is different. China is, I would call Russia an adversary. I would define them as an adversary, active adversary. They meddled in our elections. They've meddled in European elections. They are trying to disrupt our society, and I think they are acting as an adversary. China is a little different. You could argue economically they've been adversarial. They cheat in certain ways. They've been guilty of currency manipulation. There's theft of intellectual property. They've looked the other way on. But I wouldn't really call China an adversary today. We're sort of in a standoff with them. We've lived at peace with them for our generation, and I think we're trying to find out how to live at peace with China for another generation. We're locked into, as Secretary Mattis described it, it's more a contest of the will. And they are a very patient people with a very long view of history. And we're locked into this contest of wills where they intend to be the dominant part of that part of the globe, and maybe the whole globe. And we have to think about how to peacefully coexist with a nation that has an economy of their size and a population of their size. They're not going away. We're not going to subjugate them. We're not going to beat them into submission. And yet we're not going to allow ourselves to become second tier either. And that's the challenge, I think, with China, is to look at their long-term interests, to look at their long-term designs, and to make sure we hold our own with them. And I'm hopeful we can have a more productive dialogue. All this noise about tariffs. I had breakfast with Larry Kudlow, who's now the president's chief economic advisor, last Friday. And, Larry said something to me. I've known him for a while, and he said, bear in mind all this talk about tariffs, we haven't actually done the tariffs. We're just talking. The president is negotiating, and this is the way he negotiates. I think this whole discussion with China around tariffs is trying to find a way to coexist economically with them and make it in their interest to deal with us and not play games with other nations like Russia, who I see as more adversarial. That's how I see it.
Thank you. Congressman MacArthur, I think I'm going to take the floor. I see there are several questions, but